Any more questions?
Yeah, let's fire away. Right in the front here, we'll go there.
Do the over 9,000 quote?
It's only a matter of time. You cannot escape anywhere without saying over 9. Who knows what this is? Before I scream it out, and other people are like, why is that man screaming the words over 9,000? I played Vegeta, obviously, in Dragon Ball Z, and lost my voice multiple times on that show because it's the most amount of screaming I've ever done on anything in my life. And that's all he does is yell and scream. But it's very interesting with dubbing when you're trying to match the flaps of the Japanese animated characters. I was directed a certain way. Like, there's certain sort of flaps for when he was, what they wanted me to say there. I see on my script, Vegeta says, well, his power levels, you know, Annapolis it's over 9,000. I'm like, over 9,000? And I looked at it, but it didn't quite match the flaps. Like, his mouth stays open longer at the end. So I'm reading it, and I don't know how to say it. I'm like, over 9,000? And the director's going to go, no, that's too short. It's got to go, it's longer. And I'm like, oh, okay. Over 9,000? No, it's longer than that. Oh, for God's sakes. Over 9,000! And then, yeah, that fit, good. Next line. And then it becomes a bizarre meme that you all seem to have heard many times. And I've said many times. There you go.
Thank you.
Another question? Maybe right here, yeah.
I was wondering when you're doing characters like Vegeta and the Shinigami from Death Note, you're saying when you're doing Vegeta you lost your voice a bunch of times. Do you have any special techniques to keep that raspiness in your voice, or?
The raspiness is not an issue for me. Like, I play Wolverine for a new Marvel animated motion comic series right now, which is really deep and raspy, and for a number of episodes of that. And Ryuk wasn't hard on my voice. Or Vegeta when he talks, doesn't bother me at all. It's yelling usually that does it for anyone. And any character you play, I know Marika plays a new character in a new series we're doing that just the other week, you know, even though when she speaks it, it's probably not bad, but when you have to yell as a character, that's what does the damage and really is hard on the vocal cords. And obviously a show like Ryuk didn't yell ever, so it's the raspy part is not a big deal at all to do that. It's when you have to scream with those voices, then you have to start going. It's just like if you guys go to a game, a hockey game, football, whatever, and you yell long enough at a rock concert, you do that for an hour and a half, and you're like, oh man, you're hoarse at work the next day. When we do that for 4 hours in a session, and a Dragon Ball session is nothing but that. So it's not good. So it's the yelling part as opposed to, for me, the type of voice that I choose. It really is yelling. I
don't know how many times I've seen in Dragon Ball Z this particular scene. Young Trunks and well, Goku, Goten, go away, one of those guys. Anyway, when I did the old Young Trunks, I felt like I was doing this forever and ever. Oh my God. I think that show was one of the biggest shows of fighting and punching and falling down hills and oh my gosh. So talk about needing Bradisols or whatever for your throat. It does tax you after a while. If you have some texture in your voice, so you tend to go a longer period of time than if you have a pretty clean throat. You have to push it.
Yeah.
But oh man, that'll go down in history.
More
Other questions?
Hi there. As you've been saying, sometimes actors have to shout.
Yes.
Do you have any tips for people like myself, aspiring actors?
Yeah.
How to take care of your voice when you have to yell? To not sustain damage.
Glenn Livett is good. Glenn Fiddick, any of the Glens, really. No, I don't.
Wrap yourself in bubble wrap!
Keeping hydrated is the main thing when you're performing. Water, 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 water. Keep hydrated.
You know, and if you have a particularly challenging thing going on and you do have a lot of yelling, then you need to put yourself on vocal rest. You know, I've put myself on days of vocal rest where I just don't talk. If I'm not going to work, if I'm not in the studio, I'm not talking. And that's helpful because it just helps things settle down. And I learned a technique from somebody the other day, like a month ago, who is was visiting a speech pathologist. And so what you do is you take a straw, you put it in a bottle of water or a cup, whatever, put the straw in your mouth, purse your mouth and like you're a little kid blowing bubbles into the drink. Right, the straw going on. You blow the bubbles, and on the blowing of the bubbles, you vocalize on a mid-range tone, almost as if you're humming, but you're blowing bubbles in at the same time. And what it does, apparently, is it sort of massages your vocal cords and allows them to just reset themselves. And it's very helpful. Since I've been doing it, I found my recovery time in after crazy yelling sessions and stuff like that, it's just felt a little bit less demanding and destroying. So it's a good one.
That's the good right answer. What I do, I sing in the car on the way to a session, and then I drink lots of chocolate milk afterwards. I don't think that's really what you're supposed to do, but that's what works for me. Also, I mean, they say when you're singing, you sing from the diaphragm and all that kind of stuff. What I find when you're shouting and screaming for 4 hours in Dragon Ball, you try and scream with your entire body, not just up here. If you keep it all up here, you're going to destroy things. So you try and, as much as you can, spread it around your entire body as it projects out. Does that make any sense?
It does. It does. It's interesting you say that because on the way to the studio, I actually hum. Like I don't listen to any music. I don't say anything. I'm just humming, and I just try to get a. You know, there's a certain level when you're humming where your ears kind of vibrate?
Yeah.
Okay, well you get to that level and I just try to hum all the way to the studio. But sometimes when your voice is raspy, you may need it. So sometimes I'll sit there and I'll, for example on set, I've been in the trailer when I'm working on film, I wanted to make my voice raspy. I'll sit there and yell like, ah! Everything okay, Dean? Yeah, no, I'm okay. Just to get
Something wrong with you?
Yeah, yes, there is. And humming is good.
Sorry to interrupt. I take actually a lozenge with me in the studio. Like I'll take a Bradisol or something, but at home I love a pure honey with fresh squeezed lemon. It's really good too if you have a cold and you have that dry cough at night. You know, forget the Benlin, forget the Vicks and all that stuff. But it's like a paste and it just completely soothes your throat. So that's another thing. You can also do, water, salt water and gargle with that. But in the studio, that's what I'll do is have the candy with me.
And next, let's see, let's go right here.